Good night.
There we go, Michelle. I'm looking forward to seeing you on Friday, right? I mean, this afternoon, 4 o'clock
Right.
this afternoon.
That's right. This afternoon, Larry. Excited to see you too.
Yeah. Hi, Matt.
Hey, Larry. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning, Matt. I'm ready to get started whenever you are.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Good morning, everyone, and happy Monday. Hope you had a lovely weekend. Today we are in store for a great presentation, I believe, from our one of our BFFs, Nell or Nelinia. But before we do that, I will pass it to Matt for some updates.
Great. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Please, like we always say, use the chat. I'm going to do that right now. The intrepid David Van Sicklen, our operations director, is on the road right now, and so won't be with us today. So I'm doing the Zoom call. So I'm going to keep admitting people here as they come in. So bear with me. And so let's get going here. Good morning, welcome. October 27th, almost Halloween 2025. This is AMCC's National 30-minute call, same time every Monday, 11:30 Eastern, 10:30 Central, 9:30 Mountain, 8:30 Pacific. I'm Matt Bogosian, Executive Director of AMCC, the nation's manufacturing community of practice. This call has been happening every Monday for years as a check-in at the beginning of the week, and goes hand in hand with the AMCC update newsletter that comes out the Friday before. It's while you do your work in manufacturing or the ecosystem of support for manufacturing in a public, private, or nonprofit sector gig nationally or in a region, how do you play well with others? How do you, me, and all of us solve for the fragmented, opaque market system that's not producing priority products that we need to advance the American project? That's what AMCC is all about. We talk about many of those priority product categories that overlap with one another as defense, energy, transportation, ag, IT, and health. And I wanted to highlight, you guys might have seen it over the weekend. I saw Ken Burns. He's that documentary filmmaker. He's coming out with a next month with a new documentary on the American Revolution. Should be pretty cool. Thought I'd talk about that a little bit here. He's the one that's done these documentaries for decades, on the Civil War, baseball, jazz, Ben Franklin, and a whole bunch of stuff. I'm excited about the one next month that he's going to come out with. I'm wondering if he's going to emphasize, the thread of our work. George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, they both emphasized in governing, how strong manufacturing sector is, for the American independence and prosperity. So anyway, it'll be cool, something that we can watch for next month there. But back to today, on this informal 30-minute national call. And again, let's see, did I drop my thing in the chat here? If not, I'm going to do that again. Yeah, we do. We have two flavors of calls. We have roundtable calls, and then we have presentation calls like we do have today from a public, private, or nonprofit participant in the AMCC network. And so we're excited to have Nell on, who will give a short presentation in a minute talking about reshoring, something that we've talked about on this call many times. So we want to get her take on it. But first, like we do every week, we like to do two quick things at the start. Is one, highlight a couple of things from the AMCC update newsletter that goes out every Friday, and then have a couple of people introduce themselves and where they are, geographically, where they work in the manufacturing or the ecosystem of support. And we do that, of course, because it's imperative that we have trusted relationships around common narratives to build the evidence-based strategies that inform our individual and organizational actions in the short, medium, and long term to ultimately get to better structures that result in producing those priority products. So let's talk update. AMCC update came out on Friday, packed with funding opportunities, collaboration initiatives, meetups, etc. Keep those in, data points and activities, things about tools and best practices and meetups, coming to us. It all depends on you guys, the quality of that. And so appreciate that. You saw on Friday, there's this new RFP for this regional nodes program. Looks pretty interesting, from NSF around the microelectronics talent pipeline. So thought that it was important to get out. We got to dig into that. So maybe that'll be a topic that we can talk about in a future week. Maybe later after Nell's presentation. Anyway, that looks pretty cool. Today, our friends at CREC, the Center for Regional Economic Competitiveness, and RTI are going to have a manufacturing momentum summit post-game webinar at 2:00 Eastern time, I think that is, talking about and with some of the manufacturing innovation institutes who will be on the call. So that's a target of opportunity to check out. In the category of state governments leaning more into industrial policy interventions, last week we ran a workshop with our California friends from diverse regions around that state, and we highlighted steps underway by the state government that hopefully will lead to more recommendations for other state government interventions in California. So, of course, we talked about the importance of national policy too at that workshop, and the national RFI that we can all give input on, that we've been pushing for many weeks now, for a new national strategy for advanced manufacturing. That plug for the RFI input is in Friday's AMCC update too. So check it out. It's got lots of info in there in the podcast, and the MCEM tool. That's the Manufacturing Community Ecosystem Metrics tool and playbook. Lots more. Let's see, not in the update, but as an FYI, I'm going to be on the road later this week in Hampton Roads, Virginia, then in DC with our AMCC Senior Advisor on Metrics, Dr. Nikhil Calafil, at the EIG Economics meetup there. So looking forward to those stops this week, and next week be in Utah and Mississippi. Some important events in aerospace and maritime manufacturing. So looking forward to those stops too. So now on to a few intros. If you're new, welcome. Please introduce yourself on camera if you can. If you're not new, show us how it's done. Share who and where you are and what your focus area is on strengthening American manufacturing. We all need to get out of our silo a bit and build relationships efficiently and productively. This is one good way to do it. Like I said, use the chat too. That's cool. If we don't have trusted relationships, we're going to be hurting. So let's see. If just raise your hand if you want to quickly introduce yourself and say where you are in the geographically and in the manufacturing ecosystem of support. Yeah. Nate Ames, I see you on camera. Tell us who you are, where you are, what you're working on real quick. Yeah.
Yeah, Nate Ames, Center for Design and Manufacturing. I'm at Ohio State. We run, I think I said this last time I introduced myself, but we run what I think is a pretty cool program. We use commercial dollars, mostly from Department of Defense suppliers, as a way to train undergrads. So we put the undergraduate students on the projects funded by industry. It's kind of like an apprenticeship model, I suppose.
Sweet. Thanks, Nate. Thanks for being on. Kendra.
Hi, good morning, all. Kendra Kennard with Lost Angels Career Center. We're based out of North LA County. We're a training program for young adults, 18 to 24, where we train them with a number of hands-on skills such as welding, composites, electrical, mechanical. We also have a professional paint booth with the goal of getting them into the workforce in livable wage jobs. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you on, Kendra. Hugh.
Good morning, everybody. Hugh Roberts, Synaptic Technologies. At least for one more week, we're actually going through a rebrand, and we'll have a new name next week that I'll be here to talk about. But we are headquartered in Broomfield, Colorado, and we are a service bureau committed to additive manufacturing of technical ceramics. And that is 100% what we do. So
that's
meeting.
Great, Hugh.
Nice to meet everybody.
Yeah, great to have you on board, right? We're the nation's manufacturing community of practice. We're free, open source. So welcome and lean in. Put your info in the chat, get to know these folks. An incredible network of helpers from the public, private, nonprofit sector here. So welcome and jump in. So like I said at the outset, this Fantastic. Is this is a presentation call. Otherwise, we would just keep going around and talking about important issues of the day, but we're going to talk a little bit about reshoring today. So excited about that, Nell. Nell leads Strategic Value Solutions. She's going to talk about her work and reshoring opportunities. And she's from the private sector, a stakeholder there. She's been participating lots in AMCC recently, so wanted to give her an opportunity here to talk about this. Hopefully we have enough time to talk more at the end. All right, Nell, go for it.
Right, my gosh, thank you so much, Matt. Michelle, thank you so much. And you do a great job getting us all together every week. I look forward to these meetings every Monday. So let me get going. Okay. Very good. So today we're going to be talking about reshoring, and I wanted to give you a little brief introduction of myself. So I'm Nell Varinas. I am the CEO of Strategic Value Plus Solutions. We are an LLC, a private company. We enrich lives through manufacturing. And here's a little information about us. And if you'd like copies of this presentation, please reach out to me. I'm very happy to share. So what is Strategic Value Plus? By way of introduction, we help SMMs plug into the supply chains of reshoring OEMs. And how do we do that? We connect with the OEMs directly. We meet the OEM requirements, and we help our manufacturers meet the OEM requirements, rather. And we also help our clients implement Industry 4.0, 5.0, and digital transformation. We help them attract, upskill, retain quality workforce, and we also help them access capital through grants, tax savings, and incentives. We help them also to become anti-fragile. Alan Barnard has partnered with us to provide some anti-fragile masterminds on Fridays to help companies become resilient, but also to thrive in the face of volatility, uncertainty, constraints, confusion, and ambiguity. And we also help our clients become leaders industrially, environmentally, socially, and purpose-driven wise. So we shall go to the next slide. So why reshoring? Well, the U.S. over the last several decades has become hollowed out in terms of its own supply base, its supply chain, engineering competence, tech competence, and has become fragile. Our national debt, trade deficit, and security are at risk. There are hidden costs of offshoring, the hidden costs of hiring cheaply overseas. There's the lead time costs that we haven't accounted for before, and incidentally, also the cost of the loss of IP. Some of our intellectual property has been not has been taken by other countries, and then our own engineers have forgotten how to do things, which is kind of a strange but very disastrous kind of outcome. There is political pressure now. Voters and labor are raising their voices, and they are being heard. And so bringing jobs back to the United States is one of the other impetuses for reshoring. But moreover, the future of manufacturing lies in our hands if we don't take hold of it now. So this presentation is just a series of observations of the cross currents that are now being experienced. The goal, of course, is to bring factories back to the U.S., but the reality is that tariffs and administrative policies are raising costs and narrowing talent and goods pipelines that are needed to expand domestically. The net effect is an expensive balancing act that executives say is increasingly hard to navigate. So let's hear some of the words that are being shared. Robert Atkinson says that tariffs on intermediate goods can hurt exporters, and reshoring efforts, and a more nuanced strategy is needed. Scott Lincecum of the Cato Institute says, a ready, fire, aim approach, tariffs and equity stakes first, while ignoring supply-side impediments. Spencer Patterson of the National Electric Manufacturers Association says, we're 100% on board with rebuilding domestic industry. We just don't want a one step forward, two steps back solution. And then Kathy Feingold of the AFL-CIO says, we need a coherent strategy, clarity on critical minerals, funding sources, and how tariff revenue supports dignified, competitive jobs. Harry Moser, who is a friend of ours, is a necessary transition, he says. We're going through a valley, but tariffs will drive behavior over time, with pain in the meantime. Orrin Cass of the American Compass says, after demolition comes the hard part, foundations, and building something systematic, stable, and structural. So let's pull our camera back and look a little more broadly. We now have 400,000 open manufacturing jobs in the US currently, as you all know, and shortages in the semiconductor and robotics and advanced manufacturing spaces. New is a $100,000 added fee, application fee, to bring in key foreign workers that work in specialty areas that we find are critical, especially in engineering and technician specialties. These foreign experts often transfer their critical know-how to U.S. teams during scale-up. So in answer to the $100,000 extra fee, the U.S. Chamber is levied a lawsuit to challenge it. Also, the Supreme Court is reviewing the unilateral emergency tariff power adds, and which adds more uncertainty. Firms, as a consequence, build multi-year initiatives around these incentives that may change mid-project, leading to more uncertainty. So the Office of the subsidy landscape also is in flux. The Office of Management and Budget ordered a pause, and there's a uncertainty across federal grants and loans. And now that the government is shut down, there's even more uncertainty. The DOA terminated 300 plus clean energy awards, amounting to about $7.5 billion, claiming low ROI for taxpayers. That's in dispute. And then industry sites delayed delivery of critical minerals and rare earth. Also, more on the business sentiment and the paralysis that's being felt across the country in the manufacturing space, especially. These sector-based tariffs plus legal uncertainty complicate planning. And so executives hesitate to greenlight projects without clarity on the scope, timing, and permanence. So some expansion delays have occurred and or have been scaled down or have been paused pending policy fluctuations. But we've noticed still that there are, and it's hopeful, many companies are still planning large reshoring efforts. And Stellantis, which provides the batteries for Chrysler, for example, has announced recently a $13 billion U.S. investment plan. But they're not the only company that have reshored, and which gives us hope. Toyota, Intel, Apple, General Electric, Appliances, General Motors, Johnson & Johnson are some of the many companies, large companies that are coming back to the United States, opening up new supply chains and new opportunities, like some say generational opportunities for our local domestic U.S. manufacturers. And even more recently, just this month, JP Morgan announced that they're going to start a $1.5 trillion initiative that will, of course, roll out over the next several years. The administration claims that it has initiated and caused a multi-trillion-dollar pipeline of U.S. investments, and that may be the case. In any event, we remain hopeful, and we are pulling out all stops for helping our manufacturers answer the call of these reshoring companies and provide the services, the components, the parts, the raw materials to make the reshoring a success for the whole country. But on the negative side, or more concerning side, Ford, for example, has announced that the tariffs, which in his case he estimates to be $2.0 billion, is constraining additional U.S. investment. So he's holding back a little bit. Lucerne International announced that they're delaying or scaling back their aluminum forging reshoring project. And domestic producers of steel and aluminum, particularly, raised prices in anticipation of tariffs, and they're thus inflating input costs for other companies. So the takeaways, we want to notice that we expect near-term costs and talent friction, even as large cap as is announced. And also that to de-risk the supply chain, to de-risk this whole reshoring, the cross currents that we're experiencing, we recommend that companies look at their supply chains and map them out. We have some advanced technology, digital twinning, for example, that help our companies ask what if questions of the digital representation of their supply chain. So also the scenarios that are unfolding now, we ask that our clients, that our manufacturing clients take a 360-degree look at their business and really understand how they can take to handle the $100,000 new fee on importing new talent, and then also figuring out how they can shift subsidies around their company. So the questions that they could be asking themselves are which inputs or equipment in their own bill of materials are tariff sensitive, and what U.S. or U.S., Mexico, Canada agreements can be advantaged, what options exist at scale that they can take advantage of within the next 6 to 12 months, and how do visa and training policies affect their hiring and ramp timelines. So I resourced this article, just taking a look at what people were saying out there so that I can bring them to you today to give you kind of a thumbnail sketch of where we are.
That's awesome, Nell. Thank you for doing that. If you could, we have a couple of minutes left here. If you make sure you drop your info into the chat so people can just grab it from there. It's awesome to see some relationships building in the chat. I see, in the chat, Kevin Ross from Accenture, you're at a meetup and you recently, it's a year or two, Kevin, a report about reshoring and nearshoring. How did Nell's, summary kind of track to what you guys have been learning along the way? Yeah.
Well, I think all the pitfalls that Nell called out are absolutely true. I've been talking to certain clients that are really struggling with hiring resources in the US. It's one of the biggest challenges. So not only operators, I think Nell called out there's already 400,000 jobs open. That's going to increase pretty dramatically over the next several years. So they're having trouble identifying resources, finding resources. It's not just the line operators, it's engineers as well. They say they cannot find the resources that they need. I know there's a lot of folks on this call that are focused on workforce development. I think that's critical and crucial, but we also have to think about how do we leverage things like agentic AI and physical AI to make these new factories of the future economically viable. So I think it aligns with the issues that Nell is seeing, but we're going to have some pretty exciting conversations this week with NVIDIA and others in the industry, including Siemens and Dell and others, about how we actually address these issues. So if you're in DC this week, we'd love to connect with you. So please reach out.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for putting your info in the chat. And yeah, we can talk about that and maybe report back too next week. So thanks for that. Daniel Weirman. Yes, sir.
Hey, everybody. Danny Weirman, founder of the CNC Career Network. I just wanted to agree with Nell and Kevin that the infrastructure for the career pathways leading into those 400,000 jobs they've been broken up since the 80s. And so we're in the process of rebuilding those, connecting the company to the local educator, trade school, or junior college, into the local high school or nonprofits that then will bring those career seekers into the educators and then back into industry. It's really just making general awareness of the general public across the country. No one knows these jobs exist still. Still to this day, if you go into a high school or junior college and say advanced manufacturing, they have no clue what you're talking about. So that's just the hard reality that we face. And so we have to go into our local communities and make sure that we're promoting it and trying just to get that simple connection: company, trainer, nonprofit. It's very simple. You just got to get them to connect. And then I agree with Nell really quickly that really at the end of the day, we used to be a builder nation, the greatest the world ever saw. Then we be turned into the greatest consumer nation the world ever saw. And now we're trying to be a builder nation again. But the reality is we're a giant battleship and we're in mile one. We're in the first year of turning it back to a builder nation. So it's going to take a long time. So I agree with one of the quotes, Nell, that you said. We are in the valley. So I think if we're all just patient and we hold hands and walk together, we can turn the battleship. But it's going to take us the next 4 to 5 years. I think at just mental space, that's where I'm at. It's going to take another 5 years to turn this battleship, and we can do it. But we're in year one. So I want to give everyone hope. It's okay. We can get there.
That's awesome, Danny. That is great. As a Navy guy, I really appreciate the analogy there. Yeah, we do have a lot of good hard work, and we've made some progress in little places along the way, right? So, but back to that framework of you got to have the relationships. Number one, to get to the narrative that Danny's talking about, to get to the smarter strategies like the RFI is talking about, to get all, so we can all take our individual actions in rowing in the same direction. Hopefully we get better structures to make that happen. It is a crazy playing field, Nell. Thank you for your take on it. Here, we have a couple of minutes left. Any questions for Nell? Other comments? So Nell, you're in California, is that right? Southern California?
Yes, correct. I'm in Southern California.
Is there a particular, we identify kind of key manufacturing verticals around defense, energy, transportation, ag, IT, and health. Is there any one of those or more of those that you have clients in Southern California? I know it's big in aerospace down there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, we do. Aerospace, and PCB board assembly, electronics, battery. Yeah, those are our verticals that we're starting out with, but we are open to the others also that we're looking to help. Yet help our manufacturers scale up and not only scale, but in order to scale, improve their operations. But we want them most of all to become leaders in their own spaces. We have high ideals for ourselves, our clients, and our country.
There you go, man. We're rowing in the same direction now. Thanks
Yeah.
so much. And thanks for everybody being on this week's AMCC National 30-Minute Call. We'll see you next Monday. Have a good week.